2311 Racing co-owner Michael Jordan is furious at NASCAR and has just come out and said that NASCAR's unwillingness to create permanent charters for Cup teams is a big miss. And that, if you don't correct that, the sport's going to die not because of the competition aspect, but because economically it doesn't make sense for any business people. Are we seeing the beginning of the end for NASCAR? Jordan's words were one of his first public statements about the topic. Cup team owners want to extend the charter agreement beyond this season so that they may collect greater income from NASCAR. In October 2022, Cup team executives said that the sport's business model was broken. Since then, NASCAR has been searching for a solution, which they believed they had when two teams declined to sign the revised deal. The NASCAR charter system has been in existence since 2016. There are 36 charters. Each team is obligated to compete in all events. At exchange, teams are paid depending on attendance at each event, performance at the event, the season-ending points fund, and performance over the previous 3 seasons. Even with everything in place, Steve Newmark, president of RFK Racing, stated in 2022 that sponsorship accounts for 60 to 80% of a team's total income. Jeff Gordon, vice chairman of Hendrick Motorsports, stated in 2022 that it had been a while since the organization had turned a profit. More than half of the 19 Cup teams awarded charters in 2016 are no longer active. Instead of those teams, 2311 Racing, Trackhouse Racing, Wood Brothers Racing, Colleague Racing, Rick Ware Racing, and Spire Motorsports will compete. In all partnerships, if you grow the pie, that means your business is going to continue to grow, Jordan said to the audience. And to grow the pie, you've got to make sure everybody's healthy within the partnership. If our ownership in NASCAR is losing money and NASCAR is the only one making money, that's not a good partnership. The current media rights contract, which ends after this season, pays clubs 25% of the total. Tracks earn 65% of the media rights revenue, while NASCAR receives the remaining 10%. Last November, NASCAR negotiated a new media rights agreement with NBC, Fox, Amazon Prime Video, and TNT Sports, which will run from 2025 to 31. According to media estimates, the acquisition is valued at $7.7 billion. According to the Sports Business Journal, this is a 40% increase over the last NASCAR media rights agreement. Team owners want to make the charter system permanent, earn a larger portion of the media rights agreement, and collect cash from future streams. NASCAR President Steve Phelps told in March that he was confident about reaching an agreement with team owners. They desire to get something done too, Phelps said. It's a negotiation. It probably depends on what lens you're looking through. We've got some things to close the gap. The gap is not a chasm, it's just a gap. I think there are some things that both sides would like to see as part what an extension would look like. What I do know is that it's going to be a fair deal, and it's going to put our teams in a better financial position, a path to profitability, for sure. I think it'll increase their enterprise value. It'll be more competitive on the racetrack, which is really the objectives they had talked about. Even the proposal on the table right now, I think, it does that. Maybe not to the degree that the teams would like. We're in a good position. Curtis Polk, an investor in 2311 Racing and Jordan's longtime business manager, stated that without permanent licenses and higher revenue, it is more difficult to convince others to fund and participate in the sport. Until we are all aligned and paddling the boat in the same direction, we'll never be able to reach the full potential that NASCAR has, Polk said in a telephone interview. There's just a ton of money on the sidelines that wants to invest in big-time sports, and NASCAR is a big-time sport. It's not what it was in the early 2000s, but there's no reason it can't get back there again. Jeffrey Kessler, a prominent antitrust lawyer who previously represented the NFL Players Association, is working with the Cup teams. He said that teams want to negotiate, but they won't take an unacceptable deal. I was hired to help them think through their options. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, 13 of the 15 teams already agreed to an unfulfilling deal. And now, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports are at an impasse. Now that two teams have refused NASCAR's apparent last offer for its new governing charter agreement, the industry awaits the next steps, including whether the matter will end up in court. 2 weeks ago, NASCAR sought to complete its 2-year-long charter discussions by setting the 15 charter-holding teams a Friday night deadline to approve its most recent offer. 13 teams have signed up, with 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports declining. The charter ensures a starting slot in all races, as well as certain guaranteed revenue sources. That money will grow from the current iteration of the arrangement, since NASCAR earned a 40% boost in its broadcast rights deals from 2025 to 2031. The exact details of the new charter arrangement have not been released, although the last-place charter holder got $4 million to $5 million a year under the previous charter agreement from 2016 to 24. According to insiders, the new version, which begins next year, would boost the annual payout to roughly $8.5 million. NASCAR has yet to comment on the charter situation, abstaining from mentioning either the 13 teams who signed or the 2 that did not. However, in statements to the media following the announcement of the deadline choices, some club owners stated that they consented to sign because they believed the contract was acceptable, if not flawless. "We worked really hard for 2 years and it got down to, you're not going to make everybody happy. And I think it got down to, I was just tired," Hendrick Motorsports owner Rick Hendrick said. "Not everybody was happy, but in any negotiation, you're not going to get everything you want, and so I felt it was a fair deal and we protected the charters, which was number one, we got the revenue increase. I feel a lot of things we didn't like. We got taken out, so I'm happy with where we were." Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin co-own the squad 2311. Curtis Polk, an investor in 2311, and Bob Jenkins, the owner of Front Row, talked with reporters separately at Atlanta Motor Speedway 2 weeks ago, but neither indicated their next steps. Given that the team stated in February that they had hired well-known antitrust attorney Jeffrey Kessler, some industry experts have speculated that either 2311 or Front Row, or both, are now contemplating legal action against NASCAR. This isn't the 1960s, and these predatory practices will not withstand scrutiny and be accepted in 2024, Polk said. NASCAR has superior bargaining power and undue influence over the sport and the charter process. They wielded this power continuously over the past few months and consistently rejected broad team requests on major issues while providing minor changes for pet issues that some teams requested in one-on-one meetings. "I'm not going to speculate as to what we're going to do. We're going to protect our rights, and whatever we have to do to protect our rights is what we'll do." Denny Hamlin has publicly expressed his team's choice not to accept NASCAR's final charter proposal. Hamlin's remarks coincide with the news of Bubba Wallace's multi-year contract extension with the team, reinforcing 2311 Racing's intention to compete next year regardless of the charter deal status. During recent meetings, Hamlin opened up about his team's commitment to racing, despite the uncertainty surrounding the charter deal. He spoke with the media prior of the Cup Series race at Bristol Motor Speedway. "We've said we plan on racing next year no matter what, and we're sticking to that." Despite the unresolved charter agreement, 2311 Racing intends to continue competing in NASCAR events for the 2025 season. Hamlin's displeasure with the charter negotiations, which he characterizes as missing fair bargaining chances, has grown over the last 2 years. One source of disagreement was the restricted 6-hour time provided to teams to sign the charter contract before the playoff opening in Atlanta, which Hamlin found particularly difficult and restricting. Hamlin informed sponsors and partners that the charter transaction is solely an issue of ownership and will have no effect on the team's personnel job security. The club has already had great success, with Tyler Reddick winning the regular season title this year and Bubba Wallace making the playoffs last season. Looking ahead, there are significant reports that 2311 Racing may grow to 3 full-time charters by 2025, potentially bringing Riley Herbst on board via a charter acquisition from Stewart-Haas Racing. He explained in a separate interview, 2311 is interested in getting a charter deal done. We don't. Right now on Jan 1, 2025, we don't even have a charter. So, you can't buy or sell something that doesn't exist in our eyes. We have 2 charters till the end of this year, and until we get a charter agreement done, that's all we have. I mean, I didn't build that facility to stay a 2-car team, but it always has to make financial sense. I'm not going to put myself in a position to where I'm having to shell out millions and millions of dollars every year just to keep this thing going. I will not do that personally. So it has to make financial sense. And the charter agreement needs to be better than it is certainly before I invest any more money in it. But the question remains, will they be able to reach an agreement? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.